YouTube, how the duck you doing? DuckFilms here, and today we're diving into a comprehensive guide for one of the most underrated strategists in the entire game, that of course being Loki. Now Loki might not be the most popular pick, but he's an incredible all-arounder with a versatile playstyle. And I do gotta ask the YouTuber things before the video starts, and that is, if you're new here or you enjoy my content in general, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It's the best way to help me out, and we're doing a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers. But without further ado, let's get started. Now Loki is considered a 4-star difficulty character, and that's mostly because of the relatively high skill ceiling associated with getting value out of his illusionary skills. Despite this though, he can be a lot of fun to play, and he can also be a great tool for helping his team win fights, especially because those illusions may come exceptionally difficult to take down. So here's everything you need to know about Loki and Marvel Rivals. Now Loki has a large range of abilities that allow him to quickly reposition, heal up his team, and even do decent damage to enemies. Now he can go invisible to get away from enemy flankers, making him one of the strategists with the highest survivability potential. He can use his doppelgangers to distract duelists and vanguards, making them easier for your team to take down, and here's all of the abilities explained in more detail. Getting started with his primary attack, we have none other than Mystical Missile. You fire a Mystical Missile to heal allies or deal damage to enemies. So unlike a character like Adam Warlock, Loki's primary attack also heals. Now his primary attack is rather interesting. It's a single cast projectile with delayed impact, so travel time is definitely a factor with this. But besides that, it also generates a spell field. Now what's interesting is that the projectile actually deals no damage, while the spell field inflicts 30 damage per cast. Now that spell field has a 3-meter spherical radius. Damage fall off begins at 0.5 meters, decreasing to 50% at 2.5. Now the healing amount, what is that? Now the projectile does not provide healing, just like it doesn't provide damage. However, the spell field itself provides a 40 health per cast, and you have a fire rate of about 1.75 rounds per second. Now it is a relatively low health per cast, but that's because you summon doppelgangers, and essentially that 40 number actually becomes tripled. But before we dive into more of his doppelgangers, I want to talk about his alternative attack, which is titled Deception. Now this ability is one of Loki's many lifelines. It's your way of getting out of harm's way and healing yourself up. Now when Loki casts Deception, you become invisible and conjure an illusion to deceive enemies. What that means is once you use your alternative attack, one of your doppelgangers will spawn directly where you invis from. In further detail, Loki leaves an illusion in his place and becomes invisible while continuously healing himself. Pay attention, this next part is pretty important. The invisibility has no time limit, but any actions other than casting Devious Exchange, reloading, or casting doppelgangers will render him visible. So that's something to definitely be aware of. You only become visible if you use your primary attack or you use your Regeneration domain ability. Now kind of like Invisible Woman, this is your ability to self-heal. While invisible, your health regens at a rate of 20 health per second. So it's definitely something that you should be aware of. Going invisible really allows yourself to strategically put your doppelganger, and it allows you to think better of the next play you're going to be making with Loki. That's why I believe there's a misconception about Loki players thinking all they do is spam their clones and just shoot randomly, but you generally have to understand where enemies are going to be and where your team is going to be positioning so that you can generally get the maximum potential out of your doppelgangers and just your healing output in general. Now speaking of doppelganger, what is it? Well, you project an illusion that can cast some of Loki's abilities. You can place a doppelganger or clone at least 30 meters away from yourself, and you project an illusion at a selected location. Now you have 2 charges with it, with each charge taking 12 seconds to recharge. Another thing you have to be aware of is that you can only have 2 illusions up at the same time. Touching back at that 40 health per cast of your primary attack when healing, that's what I was talking about when it would be triple when you use your doppelgangers. Because you have yourself, which provides 40 HP per second, and then you could have 2 doppelgangers at the same time, also providing that 40 health per second to teammates. So that's why that 40 is tripled. Now, generally a good rule of thumb that I have with his doppelgangers is always put one in a good view range of your team so that you can provide adequate healing when needed. Then I would place another doppelganger kinda in your backline or in a place that can be seen as an escape route. Now placing it in a good escape route allows you to have a really good Devious Exchange. Now Devious Exchange is an ability that allows you to swap with the selected illusion. All you have to do is look at the clone you want to teleport to and need to be within at least 30 meters of range, and you can easily TP to it. Now something to be aware is that it has a 15-second cooldown. And when you do swap with your clone, I'm not the best at explaining this part, but let me try. So when you teleport to your clone, a clone will spawn at the original spot you teleported from. If that kind of makes sense. I guess a better way is it's titled Devious Exchange, so you're swapping yourself with the clone, you're swapping places. I guess that's better, but hopefully you understand what I mean. Now this next piece of utility, or this next part of his kit, Regeneration Domain, is probably one of the most important pieces of the entire kit. But upon ability activation, you use rune stones to create a magical field that that provides allies healing and converts incoming damage into further healing. Now again, on ability activation, you spawn in a cylindrical spell field with a radius of 5 meters and a height of 2 meters, and it lasts for only 5 seconds. Now the spell field is sustained by runestones. It will disappear if the runestone is destroyed or if its maximum duration is reached. Allies within the field will receive healing over time, and any damage taken will be converted into healing based on the amount of damage taken. Now it has a 30% conversion rate and it heals 100 HP per second. Now with that being said, the runestone health, totem, whatever you want to call it, the domain only has a total HP of 100, as well as a pretty long cooldown of 25 seconds. So most of the time you really need to be pretty strategic of where you're placing these, and I'll give you further details on how to properly use this ability later on in the video. So make sure to like and subscribe if you're finding this useful, entertaining, or whatever. Now Loki's ultimate ability is titled God of Mischief. You shapeshift into a targeted ally or enemy hero and use all their abilities except any of their team up abilities. Now it is a target ability, meaning if an enemy or an ally were to run in front of you and they block the line of sight on the person you want to swap with, unfortunately the swap is going to get messed up. Now after transforming, Loki's ultimate ability will be fully charged, so you can instantly use the ultimate that the person you swapped with. And casting a transformation type ultimate ability will extend the duration of Devious exchange until the transformation ability ends. After using it, it does have a 15-second cooldown, even though you're not going to be building your ultimate charge that fast. Unless you are, you're kind of cracked at the game. Now typically you want to swap with another support in the game, because having like 2 Luna Snow ultimates on your team at once is actually insane. But there's always those Loki players that opt for a damage ultimate so that they can better path their stats. But if you really want to be a better team player and actually win your game, you should probably copy another strategist. Now Loki's passive ability is rather interesting. His passive ability is Backstab, and it goes with his default melee, but you pull out a dagger to stab enemies, dealing extra damage when attacking an enemy from behind. For the most part, it's a pretty cool ability. It really reminds me of Loki from Smite, if you're familiar with Smite. Now the damage with his default melee, if not a backstab, is only 30, but with the backstab you get plus 15, so it's a total of 45. Again, I'm not really sure how useful and practical this actually is in play. In my opinion, if you're behind the enemy team as Loki, in Loki's form, it's probably a pretty bad scenario. Now his team up ability is Reborn. I generally have no idea how to say the first part, so I don't want to get it wrong, but basically that team up is followed. First of all, it's a passive team up ability. When Hela lands a final hit in defeating an enemy, she can instantly resurrect Loki and Thor in the respawn phase or grant them bonus health if they are still alive, which is actually an insane team up ability in my opinion if you really think about it. Basically, if Hela gets a last hit Ela, you have 2 teammates, of course if they're playing Loki and Thor, that are respawned in the spot they died at in a matter of seconds, which could easily turn the tide of a losing fight. Now if they're all alive, they get a bonus health of 50 and the respawn delay is 1.5 seconds. Now for whatever reason in my games, no one really runs this setup, even though in my opinion it's practically a broken team up ability. But of course that's up to debate. Let me know what you think about this team up ability in the comments down below. Now diving into our playstyle and tips and tricks portion of the video, I just want to quickly ask, if you're new here and haven't already, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It's the best way to support this channel and it allows me to make bigger and better content. But anyways, back to the video. Now Loki's playstyle mainly revolves around placing his doppelgangers and switching between them to confuse enemies and make a quick escape. Or if you're so inclined, they can even be a useful tool for aggressive plays and get into the fight quicker while not taking a risk of trying to get through a choke point or get past enemies to get closer to your team. It also can be quite challenging for enemies to tell the difference between Loki and his doppelgangers, given that he can use some of his abilities. As such, you can surprise an enemy who ignores a doppelganger, but in my opinion, it's just better to play safe. To really get the most value out of this ability, placement is essential. For example, you typically want to place them on high ground or near your team so it can be difficult to decipher which Loki is the real one. It's also very helpful to put one of your doppelgangers in the front line so that you can use the domain ability and really keep your front line alive. Well, as I played more and more Loki, there's something that I picked up on rather quickly, and that you should probably learn a little bit about every single hero in the game, because Loki's ultimate ability, God of Mischief, allows you to shapeshift into anyone on the field, and you can immediately use their ultimate or any of their other abilities to help out your own team. Now the first thought may be to go for someone like Punisher to get a lot of damage out, but you should also consider choosing a character like Luna Snow, Cloak and Dagger, or any other strategist in the game to really help your team out. However, because Loki's ultimate is essentially someone else's, it'll be best to take some time to learn a bit about what each hero's ultimate does in Marvel Rivals. I will say, if you're playing Loki for the first time, it can be pretty overwhelming to shift into a character you never played before, which could lead you to wasting your ultimate or wasting all the utility you could have. Now Loki's secondary attack, Deception, is probably the best tool in his entire kit. It allows him to survive in difficult situations, but it could also be incredibly useful when engaging. Not only does it make you invisible, but it drops a doppelganger where you activate it, so you can use this to confuse whoever is attacking you, but you can also quickly move into position to perform a backstab. Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this, it's definitely something you could do, and I think could be rather interesting to see high level Lokis do this. Since it's best to always have an illusion set up, this is also a great way to make sure you have something set up mid-fight. You can place your doppelgangers while you're invisible, letting you take some time to scan the area for the best placement and shift quickly to where you want to go. Like with your doppelgangers, this is a great tool for getting behind enemy lines so that you can do significantly more damage, surprising them, or even copying a game-changing ult. With all of that being said, Loki is quite a squishy character that can easily be taken down if you aren't paying attention. As such, positioning is such a crucial or vital part in playing Loki. Now honestly, not rushing into fights before your team engages and making sure you have the doppelganger set up and ready to go will ensure your survivability along with your allies. This is particularly true or important when using your Regeneration domain ability, which is an incredible way for healing your team up and protecting yourself against heroes that do a lot of damage quickly, like a character like Iron Fist or Black Panther, any type of burst character. In fact, Regeneration domain can completely negate the attack set up by these heroes and make it more difficult for them to retreat, therefore turning them into an easy target for your own team to take down. Now, something that a lot of people sleep on or mistake is that this Regeneration domain can even stop the damage from some ultimate abilities, making it, in my opinion, one of the strongest tools among all the strategies in Marvel Rivals. Now, I will say that the difficulty with this ability is that the crystal can be easily destroyed by the enemies, and with that being said, it has quite a lengthy cooldown when it goes down. It otherwise lasts 5 seconds, which is enough time to ensure the survival of your team, but it's really important not to spam it. Additionally, it doesn't have a super large circle that can cover your whole team, and given the fast-paced nature of Marvel Rivals, it can easily go to waste if your team is spread out too much, so make sure to stay close by. Now, what does all this actually mean? Well, Loki is a unique and versatile strategist in Marvel Rivals, offering a mix of healing, utility, and disruption that can turn the tide of any battle. His ability to confuse and outmaneuver opponents paired with his skill set for supporting allies makes him an essential addition to any team when played effectively. Mastering Loki requires practice, creativity, and a deep understanding of his abilities and their interactions with other heroes. Now, whether you're using illusions to deceive your foes, healing allies with pinpoint precision, or transforming into another hero with the God of Mischief, Loki brings an unmatched level of strategy and fun to the game. With all of that being said, hopefully this video has helped you in any way, shape, or form to get a better understanding of how to properly play Loki in Marvel Rivals. And if you like these types of videos or want to see more, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and comment down below what other types of videos or guides you would like to see from Marvel Rivals. But anyways, I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.